Lucinda and I lost a friend this week. He's a friend that we made through the shows. He came to a couple of our live shows, but then we wound up friends online, and then we got to know each other's cats. And once you know each other's pets, you're all the way friends, right? But the whole time I knew him, he had very serious health problems. So last week, he decided that he'd come far enough, and he chose to stop treatment. And just a couple hours before we were set to record, I got the news that he had passed. Now, of course, he was an atheist. And that matters at times like this, right? Because the decision to end one's life never sits quite right with me when it comes from a religious person. And don't get me wrong, I'm a strong supporter of death with dignity. I think every person has an innate right to decide, when it's their time to go, regardless of what they think is going to happen. But when somebody is making that call with the expectation or even just, the vague hope of a paradise on the other side, it's not exactly an informed decision. But Richard walked off stage with his eyes wide open. He knew it was the end. Now, I don't know the man well enough to eulogize him, but I know that he had a great third act. He found love again late in his life. It was a love, if I recall correctly, that was based on the mutual appreciation of a well-placed semicolon, which is appropriate since semicolons bring clauses together and tell you that something important is coming. And she was a lucky woman because he was one of those people that just always seemed thrilled with every minute that he got to participate in the world. And from what I hear, he kept that up all the way to the end. He was still making jokes as long as he still had enough breath to carry him. And in that, he was a shining example of how wrong religious people are when they talk about atheists. Right? So often we hear Christians use atheism like it's the antonym of joy. We're supposed to be these grumpy, miserable, miserly fucks debauched by our lack of moral compasses and contorted with rage by our temporal insignificance. And sure, that might be my Tinder profile, but it definitely isn't true of all atheists. It definitely wasn't true of Richard. So that's what they don't understand. In so many ways, religion robs one of meaning in its attempt to impose bullshit meaning. How often are we asked some variation of, if there's no God, then what's the point of existence? The implication, I guess, is that because you'll be forgotten, you're pointless. Because in the grand scheme of things, everyone who knew you will die and everybody who knew them will die. And even if you manage fame on the level of Shakespeare, your name is eventually going to burn up when the sun stretches out to the Earth's orbit. And the only thing that could rescue you from this melancholy void is an eternal afterlife. But purpose doesn't need to be eternal to be valid. We don't measure marathoners against infinite distances. We don't measure billionaires against infinite fortunes. And if we did, their accomplishments would seem pretty goddamn meaningless. So why would we measure our lives against eternity? Why should we uniquely employ this impossible standard only to the single most important thing that we could measure? Lives are meaningful one moment at a time, so their meaning should be measured in moments. And if you can keep making meaningful moments right up to the end, congratulations, you won. Put your initials in the fucking high scoreboard and don't let anybody try to tell you the lack of afterlife somehow robbed your life of meaning. Life doesn't need a point. Life is the point. And think for a second about how callous and clouded one's worldview would have to be to miss that. You get to be. You get to have been. You get to be one of the parts of the universe that knows about itself. You get to prevail upon the ceaseless curiosities of the world, to learn and to teach and to wonder and to make and to appreciate art, to sing and to hear songs. You get to be a note in a symphony that's been playing for billions of years. You get to love and to be loved. That may be the greatest lie that religion ever sold us, that something as beautiful as life needs a point.